FMDQ Securities Exchange, as part of his role as a key market organizer in Nigeria, hosted stakeholders to the launching of the Financial Center for Sustainability. The center serves as an advocacy platform that will support policymakers in the pursuit to mobilize impact investments and sustainable financial instruments. Special guest of honor and Governor of Lagos, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, lauded FMDQ and the United Nations Environment Programme for championing the innovative private sector-led initiative.
FC4S Lagos. I must start by commending the vision and the convening effort of FMDQ OTC Securities Exchange under the very able leadership of my very good friend for well over 25 years, Mr. Bola Onadele, without which the FC4S Lagos would not be in existence today. We are gathered here this morning to celebrate the result of the hard work they put into establishing the center and gaining in record time the credibility and prestige that has earned its admission into international network of financial centers for sustainability as the 23rd member of that network. I think they deserve a round of applause.
The Acting Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission, Ms. Mary Uduk, and Vice Chairman of the Governance Board of the Financial Center for Sustainability, Dr. Doyin Salami, also gave their remarks at the event.
The 2019 SDG report calls for urgent and concerted effort, especially in the areas of education, clean water and sanitation, industry, innovation, and infrastructure. We can only create jobs, reduce hunger, and end poverty when the private sector partners with the government to stimulate investment in the aforementioned areas. On our part, the Securities and Exchange Commission remains a strong advocate for the promotion of infrastructural development through sustainable financing. We believe, and very strongly too, that the huge budget deficit and infrastructural gap in the country can be financed by harnessing resources available from sustainability finance, investors and interest groups around the world. It is therefore my expectation that the launch of the Financial Center for Sustainability Lagos would serve as a rallying point for further discussions and engagement in ways of taking advantage of the enormous resources and potential of sustainable financing to address the infrastructure gap in our country, deepen the product offering in the Nigerian capital market, and create greater prosperity for investors and our people.
What I'm going to try and lay out is very simply what we're trying to achieve. It's as simple and as straightforward as that. When you look at sustainability and sustainable finance, there's a whole range of definitions. At the narrowest level, it's simply integrating environmental and social governance factors into financial institutions. At its broadest is where it's about a financial system that is not just stable, but tackles long-term social environmental issues, especially around sustainable employment, the financing of retirement, technology, innovation. Whether we like it or not, at the end of the day, what that most broad of the definitions is saying is that at the end of the day, all investment will have to become sustainable. And when you look at it, the opportunities are wild, at least on the African continent. Yeah, it's a whole load of stuff, whether it's smart housing, whether it is education, whether it's healthcare, whether it's transport, whether it's energy. It's a whole host of things. But if you just look at that figure there, $783 billion is what is projected to be Africa's need between now, up until 2030. Up until 2030. $750 billion is what is projected to be Africa's need. And what you are also seeing is a rapid increase in the size of assets under management of investments that are classified as being sustainable. And as I said, the direction where everything is headed is simply all investment becomes sustainable. And when you look at Nigeria, $92 billion is what is projected to be our need. And so, key question then becomes, how do we find this? But what are the key areas? And you can see His Excellency laid emphasis, I think, on the challenge of waste management in Lagos. Now, that is not a new challenge, but it's a challenge that must be resolved very, very quickly.
The Lagos State Governor, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, speaks further on the FC4S and the opportunities for impact investment in Nigeria.
It's really very commendable, right? And I think it's an opportunity for us to be part of this. It was a conversation that started with FMDQ well over 6 months ago, and I'm truly excited that they bring it to reality. For us as a government, it just feeding into why we're in governance, right? And why we think that we should be doing the kind of things we're doing now, right? Is to say to ourselves that government cannot, on a sustainable basis, do everything by itself, right? So that's why creativity must come in. And we've seen a real partner, in what has been launched here today, right? So that means all of us are in sync, and it speaks to the fact that we, out of our creativity, need to look at other sources of financing, right? Not just other sources of financing, but doing it on a sustainable basis, right? And also being able to tie it to a global deliverable, which is the SGDs of 2030, which is just 11 years down. So the question we'll ask ourselves is that come 2020, how have we grown as a nation? How have we grown as a state in terms of ensuring and taking, because the whole objective is taking people out of abject poverty, is to creating the opportunity for people. This is a very young population, is to ensure that on a sustainable basis, how do we ensure that 20, 30 years down the line, right, things have been developed, or the narrative around things being developed properly has been set. We must ensure that we keep this heart. We don't have any other place to go to, right? Like they said, Lagos is shrinking, right? The size is less than 0.4% of the total size of the country, right? So we have challenges with Atlantic Ocean, we have environmental issues, we have all sort of industry. So we must deliberately be able to say to ourselves that we need to keep this environment, we need to keep the heart safe, so that the tomorrow generation that are coming, they have something to fall on, right? And so our developments, right, the conversations we're having is to begin to push all of that. But more importantly, for our people, to take them out of poverty, is to consider things around, environment, sanitation, public, utilities around water, right? And then everything we're doing is to ensure that we're keeping the place a lot safer. Life expectancy has to be better, right? But all of this, government cannot handle it alone. So that's why the private sector are joining us to do that. But we're doing it with all creativity, because they need to ensure that they can still do it and have investors' confidence there. So risk must be de-risk. They must show, we must show from our own part that we're sincere, we're serious, we know what we want them to do from. They also must be able to, like they said upstairs, right, look internally even before you look externally. How well can we unlock the potentials, all of the debt capitals that we have? How well can we unlock it to make sure that they are available for development? They're available for infrastructural development in our country.
Mr. Emmanuel Etaride, Senior Vice President Economic Development, FMDQ, also gives his view on the objective of the SC4S.
The Financial Center for Sustainability Lagos, or FC4S Lagos, was set up on the mandate of the United Nations Environment Inquiry. In 2018 December, the United Nations Environment Program Inquiry actually launched a Nigeria Sustainable Finance Roadmap report. Before they developed that report, they had carried out a survey in Nigeria to estimate, analyze, and dimension the opportunities, the challenges, and the issues around sustainable finance in Nigeria. They wanted to know the market's perception, so they talked to different stakeholders in the capital market ecosystem, including regulators, including investment bankers, including the exchanges. They spoke to private sector people, government people, and then they came up with that report. The report has a lot of information, a lot of detailed information that speaks to how we can address the challenges of sustainability in Nigeria. So when we launched the report, that launching took place in FMDQ. The advisors to the UN challenged us, FMDQ, to rally other stakeholders in the capital market ecosystem to come together to set up the FC4S Lagos. Now, you will understand that there are about 27 other FC4Ss globally. The international headquarters or the base for FC4S is in Geneva, Switzerland. And so the advisor actually came in from Switzerland to launch that roadmap report and challenge us to set up the center. So we applied after speaking to different stakeholders in the market, all the exchanges, the other parties in the capital market ecosystem, from the issuance side or the investor side. We talked to every one of them, and then there was an inaugural meeting that took place in FMDQ on April 9, 2019. That inaugural meeting, at the end, there was an election for the leadership of the FC4S Lagos. And the chairman of the FC4S after that meeting came out to be Mr. Bola Onodele Koko. He is the chairman of the governance board of FC4S Lagos. The vice chairman is Dr. Doyin Salami, who is currently the chairman of the Economic Advisory Council to the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Other members include Dr. Andrew Nevin of PwC, who is the thematic lead for the research, education, and engagement area. And you have Mrs. Kemi Awodenyi, who is the managing director of Chapel Hill Advisory Partners. She is the thematic lead for the issuances and investments area. You also have Mr. Chidi Mike Ene of InfaCredit, who is the thematic lead for the legal and risk management area. And then last but not the least, you have Dr. Farouk Aminu, who is the head of investment supervision in PENCOM, the National Pension Commission, and he is the thematic lead for the policy and regulation area. Now, the reason for dimensioning this, the board into those four areas is so that they can look at critical issues affecting the development of sustainable finance. There are policy-related issues, regulation-related issues. There are issues around how we can motivate people to issue more green bonds, more sustainable finance-related instruments. There are issues around how we can create incentives that will make people want to issue. But also on the flip side, issues around how we can make people to understand the need to invest in such instruments.
The launch of the Financial Center for Sustainability adds impetus to Nigeria's quest of attaining the position of a leading market that attracts green investments. This will boost sustainable economic development for the nation.